My message today is self-help, and I think it might be appropriate to say it. The other day I was at Barnes & Noble and asked the clerk to tell me where the self-help section was. And she said, well, now, if I were to tell you, that would defeat the purpose, wouldn't it? I'm kidding. So, regarding my title today, self-help, self all in capital letters, which isn't up there, but it's meant to be capital S. I bet I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking, well, the self doesn't need any help. Well, here's my perspective on that. Self in capital letters is the truth of our being, our light, meaning our spiritual self, that eternal intelligence, pure love, infinite peace, the consciousness of the all, the life force that gives form to all things, and out of which everything is made. Well, now, that self doesn't need any help, in the long run anyway. However, in the short run, we tend to cover up that light. We tend to dim it. And so, it's kind of like the Bible says we're holding our light under a bushel. Or another analogy where we have put a kink in the fire hose of life and not allowing that intelligence and that love and that peace and that creativity to flow through. So, when I say self-help, I'm really meaning we need to take off that bushel. We need to unkink the hose. We need to release what the poet Robert Browning calls our imprisoned splendor. So I got to wondering about that statement, I am light. What does it mean really? So I consulted the great God Google and found some fascinating information to support the claim, I am light. I won't discuss it to any great detail because that would take us deep into the scientific weeds. And some of you may already know these facts. I knew about auras, and I knew that you could take a picture with Kirlian photography of these energy fields around people. And so obviously they must emit some kind of light if you can take a picture of them. And I knew that as you grow spiritually, that your aura becomes more beautiful and more expansive. But I found out some interesting information that I didn't know about biophotons. So a biophoton is a light particle, or it could be a wave too. You know, when you get down to that level, things can be waves or particles. It doesn't have mass. It transmits information between the cells. Its visibility is about 1,000 times lower than what we can see with our naked eye, but they now have instrumentation that shows these biophotons. As one article that I read said, light appears to be a fundamental part of our being. At least one scientific study has discovered we can affect light with our intentions. That blew a few scientists away. I'll never forget this story I heard back, it was probably in the 70s. For a number of years, I attended 2 spiritual conferences down at Carleton College in Northfield. 2 different organizations brought spiritual teachers in from all over the country. And it was really an amazingly expansive experience. I wish they still did it, but they don't. One of the teachers was a dynamo named Connie Newton. And among other things, Connie taught a series of movements that she had channeled that looked something like martial arts moves or Jedi moves. And to accompany these moves, she had the following statements. I am light. The light is within me. The light moves throughout me. The light surrounds me. The light protects me. I am the light. Sounds a little familiar, doesn't it? Well, she told a story of how she taught her son, who must have been about 9 at the time, these movements and statements. And one day her son had a little friend over, and he was showing his little friend how to do this. And Connie walked by just in time to hear the little friend, who was kind of staring at her son in amazement, say, "How do you get the light to come out of your fingers that way?" So I guess I can rest my case on I am light. I want to make a couple of points about prayer today as it relates to self-help. I think that it's often misunderstood, and it's a powerful way to uncover and release your light and the light of other people. Someone, I think it was Ernest Holmes, who was the founder of religious science, said that if you could see a prayer, it would look like a beam of light. That makes sense to me. I think of prayer as having a dual purpose, neither of which has anything to do with trying to change God or change another person. The main purpose of prayer is to know and affirm the truth with a capital T. And when you clearly know that truth on a feeling basis, you bring it forth in your experience. Now, how does this work? Well, we believe in unity, that our mind is one with universal mind. And so is everyone else's, and so is everything. So this is one of our universal principles, and prayer is a way to activate that principle in your life for good. When you can clearly and consistently impress upon divine mind that creative stuff of the universe with your mind, whatever you want manifests in your experience. When you align your mind with truth, with a capital T, you experience truth. Well, now the second and underlying supporting purpose of prayer is to convince your own mind of the truth, despite what you see out there, despite appearances, because sometimes it's very hard to convince your mind of the truth. Do we look at the Middle East and see peace and harmony? Well, not really. But do we believe peace and harmony are the truth that underlines everything? All of existence? Yes. But do we really believe it? And that's where prayer comes in. That's when you do meditations like the one that I did earlier this morning. Magnifying the love that you know is really underlying all the appearance of conflict. Reverend Dr. Judy Powell, who was mentor and teacher to me and to Jeff as we were going through ministerial training, used to say, if you visit someone in the hospital and see a sick person in that bed, you turn around, go out, and you know the truth. Work on your mind, know the truth, and then go back in. So what is the truth of that situation? The truth is the person is whole and complete. Perfect. That's the truth with a capital T. So we have, as prayer chaplains, we really need to work on knowing the truth. And we do that through prayer. Prayer conditions your mind. The more you do it, the more you can kind of feel that truth and know that truth. So the truth is wholeness, it's peace, harmony, abundance, joy, love, wisdom. So we're all one with it, and we all are part of it. We're all expressions of it, so that is the truth of us. And we got to know it, man. We got to know it, and then we'll manifest it. So I think I have time to tell you one more story. This one shows what one person can do to help bring light to a situation. This story is about a man named Dr. E. Haleakala Hugh Len, and an ancient Hawaiian method of healing called Ho'oponopono. More than 30 years ago, the Hawaii State Hospital had a high security ward for criminally insane people. And this ward held people who had committed very serious crimes like murder, rape, or kidnapping. And according to a nurse who worked there at the time, and this was in the 80s, the place was so bleak that the paint wouldn't even stick to the walls. Everything was decaying, depressive, repulsive. No day would pass without a patient or patient inmate attacking another inmate or one of the staff. And the people working there were so frightened that if they were walking down the corridor and they saw an inmate coming, they would just back up to the wall, even though these people were shackled all the time. But it was not uncommon that they would still attack people. The inmates were never brought outside to get fresh air because of their relentlessly threatening attitude. Scarcity of staff was chronic because no one wanted to work there. And those who did work there, the wardens, the nurses, the other staff, they would take a lot of sick leave because they wanted to avoid that depressive and dangerous environment. So one day, a newly appointed clinical psychologist named Dr. Hugh Len arrived at the ward. And the nurses braced themselves because here was another guy with new theories, new approaches, and he'd probably be gone in a month. That's the way it went, usually. However, this doctor didn't do anything like that. Actually, he didn't seem to do anything in particular. He always came in cheerful and smiling and relaxed. And sometimes he'd walk through the ward and he'd look at the patient's files, but he never did any therapy. He never talked to any of the patients. And so if members of the staff wanted to know what the story was, he would tell them about this ancient Hawaiian healing method called Ho'oponopono. And little by little, things started to change. One day somebody tried again to paint the walls and the paint stuck. The staff started to take care of the gardens and they fixed the tennis courts, and pretty soon some of the prisoners who up until then were never allowed outside were allowed to go out and started playing tennis with the staff. Other prisoners no longer needed their medications, didn't need to be shackled. More and more inmates obtained permission to go outside unshackled, and they didn't cause trouble. The atmosphere changed so much that the staff stopped taking sick leave. In fact, more people than they needed wanted to work there. Gradually, prisoners started to be released. In 1987, close to 4 years after Dr. Hugh Len arrived, only a couple of inmates were left, and they were transferred to another facility, and they closed down that ward for the criminally insane. So what happened there? How do you do that? When Dr. Hugh Len is asked what caused the patients to change, his answer is, I was simply healing the part of me that created them. Whoa. I was simply healing the part of me that created them. Ho'oponopono is defined in the Hawaiian dictionary as mental cleansing and setting things right through mutual restitution and forgiveness. It teaches that each of us needs to take 100% responsibility for everything we see, feel, and experience, because the way we see the world is entirely and literally our creation. I think maybe we know that, but it's like, whoa, come on. So Dr. Hewlin believes the miracle in the hospital was due solely to him cleaning the individual and collective memories in himself that were demonstrating in the hospital. In this cleaning process, he would say to the divine, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, and thank you. Sometimes he would simply say, I'm sorry, I love you. 4 years of this. He believes that only divinity can reach into the subconscious mind and take the problem memories and neutralize them and leave the mind empty and peaceful. And then inspiration can come in, transmuting the memories. So if you're upset with the Middle East or a family member, whoever, say to yourself, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. Surround them in pink light and pray affirming the truth, which is love. If you want to know more about Ho'oponopono, consult the great god Google or his consort, the great goddess Amazon. Ho'oponopono is another means of self-help, the way I'm talking about it here. Cleaning the mind allows the divine light of the self to brightly shine, just as prayer conditions our mind to the light of truth. So go help yourself. Namaste.